I'm Wayne Randall, Finance Editor with the National Black Unity News and host of the Finance Hour. I've been talking to Dr. Humphrey, Commander-in-Chief of the Baltimore Trauma Response Team, that provides continued support for families and communities in the Baltimore City that have been affected by the recent violence. In addition, he's a contributing editor of the National Black Unity News. He's a pastor, he's an author, and an activist. Dr. Humphrey, got a lot of accolades to be very proud about.
Thank you, sir.
It's an honor to be sitting here talking to you. Where you just left off, I'd like to pick back up with you on that, about when you were talking about how that program picked up. Can you just fill us back in on
Sure. Well, the reason was, as far as when it came to the community, so Hopkins had a program that was put together by a gentleman by the name of Dr. Phil Leaf and former Richard Height, which was a sergeant then, and he retired as a chief of police in Indianapolis. They all went up to New Haven, Connecticut, and tried to model a program from New Haven, Connecticut, which was called the CDCP program, and the acronym for that was the Child Development Community Policing Program.
Okay.
They wanted to model that program from New Haven, Connecticut, where you had college students, clinicians, police officers that would respond to trauma. So when the commissioner of the police in New Haven, Connecticut came here and heard some of the horror stories about Baltimore, they said it would never work. And Dr. Leaf and Richard Height, we added the community piece to it. And it did work from 96 to 2009. And it worked so well that the city wanted it, the politicians in Baltimore City wanted it all over the city. And didn't have the funding to do it. Of course, Hopkins wanted everything in their backyard.
Okay.
So when Hopkins wouldn't go for it, all I know that the funding was pulled and the program ceased. And I picked it up in 2009 and named it the Baltimore Trauma Response Team. And in that period of time, my son was murdered.
Okay.
So I needed somebody
An
to
outlet.
yeah, I needed outlet. Yeah, so that's how I got involved.
Yep. Hold that thought. I'm Wayne Randall, Finance Editor with the National Black Unity News and host of the Finance Hour. I've been talking to Dr. Humphrey, Commander-in-Chief of the Baltimore Trauma Response Team. Where you just left off, I'd like to pick back up with you on that, about when you were talking about how that program picked up. Can you just fill us back in on
Sure. Well, the reason why the program was so effective, not because of the face, is because the blood, sweat, and tears that was put in it. Everybody that I was working with had the passion, and because it helped me. That's the main thing.
Yes.
And it's just like if your neighbor's house burning down and he needs your help, you don't ask, let me see your checkbook. So I know what it did for me, and we tried to, when I say we, Dr. Phil Leaf and others who was instrumental, and definitely have to include Dr. Jacqueline Harvey, who is the assistant director of the health department, and I think it's PG County. Yeah, PG County. She did the child psychiatry part of it. All of them who were instrumental in helping me. I took it to the next level. Well, let me put it this way: I have to leave I out of it.
Okay.
Because good ideas don't come from us. All good and perfect gifts come from the Lord. The Lord gave me the vision, and he made provision.
And you acted on it.
And I acted on it, yes, sir.
How do you support grassroots organizations affiliated with the trauma team?
Well, we are the voice for a lot of the grassroots organizations. If you're aware, and before I go any further, I want to thank you and Brother Vernon, and thank you, Brother Wayne, for this opportunity, and thank my daughter that's in the background. I don't want to show her face for now, but eventually she will. There are people in the city who pretty much don't know their way around how to get things done, and it has a lot to do with my background, because we know how to take sour lemons and make lemonade. I was born and raised in Lafayette Projects, where we were raised on surplus food. I can remember as it was yesterday, my mother would send me to go get the surplus food, and I was ashamed. Where the kids would tease me and say, I could tell by your neck you get that welfare check, and I can tell by your knees you eat that welfare cheese. The peanut butter, Spam, apple butter, but we survived.
Yeah.
And we helped each other. So what I do now, those organizations that don't receive funding from the mayor's office, Muncie, and the American Rescue funding, that the president sent the monies down to help these struggling organizations. I believe if I would have got my burns together and maybe talked to my daughter or whatever, we maybe could have put in a letter together to the president himself.
Yeah.
Because of my son's background.
Yeah, right.
I received a Lifetime Achievement Award from Donald Trump. I was scared to take it, but I took it.
Okay.
For the work I've done, the work the Lord allowed me to do. So those that are struggling and don't know how to make do, as the old folks say.
Yes.
My role is to show them. I teach them in trauma. I teach them to recognize the psychosis and the signs when people are traumatized. My brother just passed September the 4th, one day before my birthday. I found him deceased. And I've been around mental health all my life. My brother was bipolar, paranoid schizophrenic, and chemically unbalanced. So it starts at home. And when I was coming up, we couldn't. It was only, I was the youngest of two siblings. We couldn't go out and play with others if we didn't learn how to get along ourselves. So it's my background and my upbringing, and having 9 uncles. My mother came from a family of 13. So the foundation was laid, but I must say, Mr. Wayne, that this was a preordained by God. Because
I believe it.
Yes, sir. In 1969, which is Charles Hickey School now.
Okay.
I was there when I was 12 years old, and I came back almost 50 years later, and they hired me on the spot to be the director of the mentoring program. Yeah. So I know all this ordained by God.
It was predestined.
Yes, and I had to give him the honor and the glory, because I ain't doing nothing on my own. Yeah.
Your involvement, and what capacity do you work with the Calvin M. Rodman School?
We had two. Our grandmother had 2 children that were students there, and I was in like 8 schools at one time.
Okay.
When I was trying to convince the principals that they do have a gang problem starting at the age in the 3rd or 4th grade, and they thought I was crazy. So just offering them the extra help that they need. We have retired teachers, retired doctors, lawyers, Black Mental Health Alliance, and when I was going to school, the teacher didn't have to worry about all these things, but now the teacher have to be everything. The probation officer, the police, the mother and the father. And it's very sad because I would sit in the classes and the teacher is trying to teach, and some of the kids going in the teacher's pocketbook, putting on the makeup, and there's so much distraction. But I remember when I was coming up, I had a teacher, Miss Parham. She would always say, the teacher will teach when the student is ready. And I never forget that. And then I had another teacher named Mr. Woods, but I didn't like him because he was a disciplinarian. He would say, boy, come in here and you might accidentally learn something. So school is not like school was. I'm 66 years old. You know this.
Oh, yes.
So that's how the environment is. And we come in and we talk to the students. And when I was coming along, there wasn't such thing as an officer friendly. But I think they killed Officer Friendly because he's no more.
Oh, no. He doesn't exist.
No, he doesn't exist. So teaching the children about how to react when they are stopped by law enforcement. Be respectful. You don't let them belittle you. But when they ask you to do something, and a lot of people, don't know this. I didn't know this until before Malvin Williams. You heard of Lil Malvin?
Yes.
Lil Malvin told me that if a police officer pull you over and don't explain to you why he's pulling you over or is charging you for anything, and you ask him to speak to a supervisor, if he don't do that, then that's kidnap. He's holding you against your will. I didn't know that.
See.
And a lot of black young men don't know that. Excuse me.
Well, it's a changing world.
Yes.
I mean, from when you started the inception of when you started with the Trauma Center to now, and you're over your 27-year tenure, what would you say is one of your most profound accomplishments there that you're proud about?
To see young men that was in my care, ordered through the court system, to see them get out of the juvenile justice system. I worked in Charles Hickey School, and I'm proud to say that in 2000 I blew the whistle to help them get downsized because of how they treated the young kids.
Yeah.
And I knew a lot of them weren't getting the mental health services and they were being taken advantage of. So my accomplishment is that not only Charles Hickey School, but Cheltenham too.
You did say you were involved in 8 schools.
Yes,
right?
yes,
okay,
yes.
okay.
I was involved in 8 schools, and a lot of the principals knew. Dr. Bernard Harris was one of them on Caroline Street, Margaret Brent, Dallas Nichols, Barclay Middle School, Lake Clifton, when they had all those different schools in there, we were there. We came and the team came and the Harlem Globetrotters came. They had us to have their back, and they didn't want the presence of a police because people might not have felt comfortable, but they had the trauma team to help host it. The police department, I go all the way back to the man's name on the headquarters of the building. Bishop Robinson was one of my mentors.
One of your mentors.
Yes, he taught me the ropes, and to see a lot of police officers' lives being transpired, changing.
Transformed, yeah.
Yes, want to talk. I just told a group of officers, to be a friend, you got to present yourself friendly. Don't come in the presence of people and don't speak. They don't speak because they feel a certain way. They feel like everybody is against them. I told them the pastor and the police officer in the same boat. Nobody really likes the police or want one till they need one. Same way in the church. People haven't been in the church in 10, 15 years, but as soon as somebody died, they want their pastor. You forget about how they look. I mean, it's not so much they ain't sending no money and all that, but the nerve of some people. But that's just human nature.
Humphrey is the chief of the Baltimore Trauma Response Team with over 30 years of experience working with youth, incarcerated adults, caregivers, and clergy. Over the years he has dedicated his resources to community members concerning trauma. Diligently throughout these years, Dr. Humphrey has trained and counseled professionals and community members while supporting victims and families at crime scenes for the trauma they experience. Dr. Humphrey has a broad reach with his work and has partnered with the Baltimore Police Department in efforts to lend support to the citizens of Baltimore to recognize trauma and especially childhood trauma.
For that insightful, dialogue as to where you started and your inception and all. And we really wish your daughter would have been able to add some to the commentary. I'm sure she probably would.
I mean, if you ask her some questions, I mean, I'm sure she answer. Let you. I mean, some things you might want to know. Yeah. What kind of dad I was, or what her opinion. I mean, if you ask her some questions, I'm sure she'll answer.
Yeah.
I mean, but if that's not in the script, I understand that too.
That's okay. That might be another show, or another interview.
No problem.
What are you doing on your daily basis right now with the trauma? So, still involved with them, or?
Right now, I'm looking for someone that I can pass the baton to.
Okay.
I have to stay involved because what happened is that when I got involved, I made a conscious decision to God and a promise to my son that his legacy will live through me.
Yes.
I had a brother tell me, you talk about your son too much. You should stop talking about your son. And the old me would have split his wig, because I thought he was out of order for even saying something like that. My son is the reason why I do what I do.
What you do, yeah.
Right. Well, not just my son, because I want to walk out the door with my daughter. I'm proud of both of them. She made a big accomplishment too in what she had done in life. So what I shared, it paid off.
Yeah.
So where I'm at right now, and I'm in the teaching mode. I'm teaching
mentoring.
Yes, mentoring. Yeah. Thank you. And the police department, working with Major Guy Thacker in the Eastern District. He's trying to push to get this curriculum in the police academy.
Yeah, I know it's a lot going on in the school systems now. It's out of control.
Yes.
It's what would you say should be done, if anything can be done?
Well, there's always something that could be done, but the people in leadership that they are paying all this money, they need to revisit that. I try to make it a point not to say negative things, but that the lady's name that's on that building, Alice Penderhugh, she was my teacher.
Okay.
When I was in elementary school, but it's all about leadership.
Yes.
I was told by one of my mentors, if a man, woman, boy, girl say that they're a leader and don't have no followers, they're just a good person taking a walk. And I would say that I thought a lot of the blame goes to the parents. Yeah. When I was going to school, if I came home 2 days in a row without no homework, my mother or father was on the phone calling the teacher or going to see the principal. But the problem we have now, because a lot of our younger parents can't keep up with the modern day education, they're not able to help their children.
Right.
To
coming up with studies that they don't even know.
Or not only that, they might want to help them, but there's no lights on. They can't see. Yeah. So it's
other problems.
Right.
Yeah.
Other
surmountable problems around this situation.
But those that took advantage of the money, I think they should be held accountable.
Yeah, I do agree with you when you speak about higher management and what's going on in the city, and people making these three digits, 6 digit salaries, and they should implement new change, something to go on. You can get as many doctors and different chancellors that you can, and they come and they go. Right. Nobody stays for any length of time.
And now they want to be disrespectful out of line, but my personal side say that people that, not saying that Dr. Santalisa didn't misappropriate any money, but if she did, then they should put her in prison too, like everybody else. She shouldn't get a pass.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you should look into it and see what's going on. The money is being allocated. Where's the money going at?
Absolutely.
We're financial people, and that's generally what has to be done. money has definitely been, put out proportion for a certain thing. We should be able to see results on it.
Absolutely.
As a takeaway, speaking about the trauma center and your involvement with it, what would you want people to get from this as a takeaway? That's seeing this video.
As a takeaway, when I was coming up, trauma wasn't a topic. Mental health wasn't a topic that we talked about. Whatever was discussed in the house stayed in the house.
Right.
And all of us had a delusional, crazy Uncle Joe that we kept locked in the closet and slid his mail through the door that, we weren't so proud about.
Oh, absolutely.
But and if you talk to anyone from the health profession, then you were outcast. You were labeled as crazy. But we must educate our children so we can identify the issues that they have. They have so many obstacles with the lead paint, learning disability, what is it, HDDT and all that. You have so many.
It's amenable.
Yes.
It's amenable, but
yes.
it's a plethora issues.
So I want people, if they don't get anything else from this, that when trauma goes untreated, it's a big problem.
Spreads like a cancer.
Absolutely. I mean, I know when the pandemic hit, so many people, it was crazy. I mean, you would go into businesses and ask somebody in the Home Depot or whatever, and they just lash out at you. I'm trying to figure out, did I say something wrong?
It was a stress.
Right.
What was people